Everyone, welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of South to North Walk. This is a really special start to the season because this season is rooted in a deeper mission, the Reconnection Archive, a space dedicated to exploring the people, ideas, communities, and experiences helping us reconnect to ourselves, to each other, and to what it means to truly be human, because one story can inspire thousands of communities. And I genuinely could not think of a better person to begin this season with than Charlie Holt from Roots of Play. Charlie's work is centered around play, creativity, movement, storytelling, ancestral knowledge, and the importance of creating environments where people, especially young people, can grow into themselves through curiosity, expression, and connection. Through Roots of Play, he's helping revive meaningful, hands-on, community-centered experiences in a world that often feels disconnected and overstimulated. This conversation dives into the psychology of play, roughhousing, imagination, creativity, identity, community, and what happens when we give people permission to explore life more fully and authentically. Charlie, thank you so much for being here. I'm genuinely honored and excited to have you on the show. Please enjoy. Hello, Charlie. How are you doing?
I'm very good. How are you?
Oh, so well. Thank you. I'm so happy to have you on the podcast. For those who have never heard of you before, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your work, Charlie?
Yeah, my name's Charlie. I'm based in the Lake District in the UK, and I am currently gardening a project called Roots of Play. I think the reason I say gardening is because I'm not feeling like I'm the one like kind of doing it. It feels like it's doing itself, and I'm just kind of like tending to it as it grows. And kind of what it's centered around is getting people really exploring and pulling apart the relationship they have to themselves and also like the world and the ecology and the environment and situation that they exist in. It kind of manifests through lots of different like weird and wacky strange forms, things that look a little bit like play fighting, like contact improvisation dance, movement in nature, parkour, swinging through trees, and doing lots of things that kind of blend all those arts into one weird strange form.
I love that. And it's really valuable because if someone were to see you playing out in the trees, they might not recognize how impactful or meaningful the work you're doing really is. To my understanding, you've got training from teachers all around the world, and you've been refining your skills and understanding of how to work with people, the nervous system, and play. Can you help us understand why you've done so much to learn from different people, or what has been one of the major takeaways in some of the things you've learned from teachers around the world?
Yeah, I think it's funny. I just ran a workshop recently, and we spoke about this, like the importance of, especially this like younger, emergent kind of like sector of people that are like sharing this kind of work. I think it's really, really, really important that like us, that group of people, are like honoring the fact that there is no way we would be where we are without our teachers and without the people that have come before us. Like they've paved a path and paved a way that we can stand on their shoulders and share our own stuff and our own innovation, but also like the kind of the lineage of these things that have come before us. So I was like brought up in doing like martial arts and stuff like this. So this idea of being able to like carry a lineage has always been quite strong in me. So I've always felt that it's super, super necessary that if I'm going to be leaning into like a new area and a new topic, to kind of like seek out teachers, mentors, and different people to learn from and really like honor their work, and also try and find the cracks and find the things that I can like innovate within their work. And it's felt like a really, really important part of my kind of, I think my like voice in what I'm doing is like really trying to get people to understand the relationship between the master and the mentee, like the student. Because it's like a super, super sacred relationship that kind of forms, especially when it's outside of a financial context. If you can really figure out like an exchange that feels nourishing and mutual to both, this relationship can be really, really beautiful. And I think then some of the most kind of meaningful lessons that I've learned from teachers I think, to be honest, it is that relationship. Like I've always like been watching films about like martial arts and different people and different, young people that find the mentor, like Karate Kid and different things like this, where they have that. And I always yearned for that like feeling of like being able to study with someone that's like an old sensei in their art, but never really had the embodied experience of what that was like. But learning what that's like was incredible. And there was lots of cool wisdom and lessons and practices and things that I learned from them, but it all felt secondary to like the beauty of that relationship itself.
Wow. It's amazing. I think that's something we all kind of want. I think there's a reason we are drawn to those kinds of movies where there's mentors or there's coaches, like Coach Carter and
Yes.
The Karate Kid. Such ideal movies, so impressionable. I want to understand a little bit about, well, let's talk about something more specific, like your program with teaching young boys, especially, how to roughhouse. That is
Yes.
such a unique and interesting thing. And it's important because it's the difference between aggression versus like physical embodied physical intelligence. Can you explain your work in that space and the importance of getting kids at a young age to kind of express themselves authentically like this?
Yeah. So basically, kind of, this is still something that I'm really kind of, I feel like I'm still learning myself, but it comes from like a very personal place. So what you're referring to there is we get people, we try and get people and children to kind of come to us in different ways to basically give them like a rough and tumble rough housing education. So uh, what life could look like with spaces that allow young boys, young men to express themselves in their fullness without having to suppress anything, and providing them a space that is safe and non-judgmental and really inclusive of that like deep desire to like roughhouse play. You'll see this with young boys, like everywhere in the playground. They'll start it and it'll often get stopped. Um, and it's really, really, really bad that gets stopped, because what that is, that's like a deep fundamental human need, especially in boys, also in girls, but it's something that's very clear in boys. And it's like a deep, deep, deep fundamental need that we have to play and express in this kind of way. And if we shut that off, if we suppress that play response again and again and again, that the energy that builds up in the body from that suppression will always come out somewhere else, and it often ends up coming out in really, really harmful ways: abuse, verbal, physical, not being able to, like, that's the kind of extreme setting of it. But then even just in like a more toned down version, like uh not being able to express emotions very well, not being able to like calibrate touch very well, because they haven't had chance to develop really clear maps of how they map themselves onto another person, and how like, if I've had no chance to ever play in this sort of way, maybe someone's joking and I like push them, like, because it's funny and like it's just this jokey little moment. If I've had no moment to really understand what it's like for my body to interact with another, I could push way too hard, I could pull way too hard, I could scream way too loud. Like, we get so much data through interacting with other people. So giving children the opportunity to have this really um, like in-depth and sensitive like inquiry into what it means to play, interact, play, fight, tussle, with people that are older, people that are the same age. It gives them the embodied vocabulary in their body to know how to be like how to be better at enacting and being inside your own body. Um, and it really affects it. Often women end up being like the unfortunate receivers of male clumsiness, male disembodied clumsiness, because it wasn't that those those expressions were never really allowed to play out, never be able to make manifest. So women often end up being the unfortunate receiver of all of those things, which sucks, which really sucks. So what we're trying to do with that is get young boys having much more like regular physical interactions, play fighting, allowing those like suppressions to like really, really, really come out. And often when they first come out, and that first moment where like they maybe come to us for the first time, often they are super, super clumsy, and they're super like they put way too much force in. And so you have to sort of like be aware of this when they start, because especially if especially if they're like a 14, 15, 16-year-old boy, like some of these boys can have a lot of strength. But over time, they really start to realize, like, oh, if I push that hard or if I punch that hard, like that hurts, and then they learn something, which is great.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a little bit about that. The kind of like rough and tumble stuff we do with young people.
That's amazing. Charlie, what do you reckon the impact is for a young man, for example, a young boy, for example? What is the impact you've noticed or recognized in your work for people at such young age to understand their power, even if it's just on a physical level? How does that impact them psychologically for their development?
Yeah, I think this like really, 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 really like ties into like what I'm really trying to do with, because we do this with children, but we're also doing this with adults.
Yeah.
And it links to empathy. Like we have such an amazing capacity to be like so empathetic. Like a stranger walks into the room and you clock them, and you can almost get a sense of how they are just by body language. Like there is so much stuff happening in your brain and how you receive body language that ties into how we relate with empathy. And embodied physical practice, whether it's dance, whether it's martial arts, whether it's just cuddling, whatever it is, like we enhance and we improve our ability to relate with empathy. And so I think a real thing that I've watched with children that have had a real strong rough and tumble upbringing is their empathetic capacities are incredible. Like their ability to look at look at other people and see what's wrong. They can just tune super quick, because so say for example, one of my mentors, his name's Rafe, his child has been doing like grappling, jiu-jitsu and judo since he was a like young small boy. um and so he is constantly 2 or 3 nights a week going and having to attune to the body language of other people all the time. It's drilled in. And if you can imagine, that's in a very like high stakes, high consequence moment where if he's not tuned in, he's going to get jabbed in the ribs or he's going to get thrown over someone's shoulder. So if you scale that back to just an environment where he's just having a conversation with his friend who might be upset that's not telling him, like his ability to tune is so well dialed because he's been doing it in a really complex and big environment, but he just scales it down to just a conversation. Like empathy is massively improved. And I think to become a well socialized human animal, having a really strong sense of empathy is fundamental to being able to relate, being able to listen, being able to hold, being able to speak, speaking how you feel, and all of these different things. So it really does show the embodied practice of like having physical conversations with people. What I mean, physical conversations like play fighting or dance or something like that. It really does map onto the psychological soft skills that we have when like relating with people. Yeah.
That's incredible. That's so incredible, Charlie, because I think we see that a lot more in women where they kind of have this attunement to people and their energies and their feelings, and that's incredible. I've never really heard the opposite end for males. And it makes so much sense. Yeah. Play, know your power, know your strength, attune yourself to like play fighting. Wow, what an impact you're making. That's incredible. With in regards to like adults that you work with, because if you're working with kids and you're starting them off early with this kind of knowledge, that could be a great benefit. I could see how it could be a great benefit to them, and for the future in their adulthood. But for people that you work with in your programs where you're working with people for the first time in their adult years, what are some of the psychological changes you've noticed it when they're actually starting to climb trees or to move or to feel or wrestle or laugh and play in that kind of way? What are some of the adjustments that you notice even just from the first time interacting with people in that kind of group setting?
So there's something. This is a visual thing. I'm going to stand up for this bit, but basically, there's this thing when you watch someone walk up to a tree, like when they're like, so they've just come onto an event with us or something like this, and they walk up to the tree and they're sort of like this, you know, they've like, you can imagine like laptop, very lateral kind of planes of motion. And they walk
Yeah.
up to the tree and they're like, oh, okay, and they look, and then by the time they've finished walking in the tree, there's a softness in the whole system, and
Yeah.
this then really links to like, this is like almost a visual representation of what we hear from people, which is like they whether it's climbing a tree, whether it's climbing a river, like we're climbing up a river, whether it's rolling around in moss, whether it's like crawling into cool little spaces under root systems or whatever it could be, people um there's this very consistent message that comes back, which is this like sense of like enhanced like internal spaciousness. Like I feel like I have more space inside, like more capacity to like understand what's going on. I don't feel so like locked up in like my thoughts and feelings. Like there's like, and you know, you see it in the like at the, so if you look at the, we often do these retreats, and if you do like, you see the opening circle to the closing circle. In the opening circle, like everyone, you can see they're excited, but there's sort of this like, you know, they've been traveling or they've come from work the day before, and like they're sort of like, they're sat there excited, but they're sort of like kind of anxious and anticipant. And then by the end of the week, they're just like lounging, like leaning on their friend, like leaning back, and it's just, it's, you can really see literally in the body of the people that are there, like this like enhanced state of like connectedness and spaciousness. That's like, we see it every time, every single time that people come, even if it's just a 2-day thing. There's a softness of features, there's a softness of spoken word, there's a softness in the body, and hugs get a lot longer throughout the week. As you know, when you're having hugs with people, hugs seem to get a lot longer.
Wow.
And yeah, there's lots of things that happen. It's very clear, even just to see in the body without them saying anything, you know.
That's amazing. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking to belong and to have that sense of community or that intimacy or closeness that's just
Mm-hmm.
platonic, just
Mm-hmm.
connecting us. That's incredible. But why, in that, without, in regard to that, why is play so essential for us?
Great question. I think the first thing that comes up is like, I like to kind of like strip it back, like with stuff like this, like every single animal in the animal kingdom, I think, uses play as a way to, as a state, is a state of being. Like you'll watch even things like snakes. Snakes will play fight. Monkeys, our closest relatives, will. It's a part of the way they just they use and interact with the world. And um we have become very, very, very distracted by lots and lots and lots of different things. But if we stripped all that away, all the tech and all the things, like what would we do with our lives? So we would hunt food, we'd probably farm, we take care of our family, and we do those things. And outside of those things, what would we do? Probably rest, probably sleep, procreate, and play. It's these like fundamental aspects of what we did. And it's something that is, like I said earlier, it's like a biological fundamental need we have to, like eating, like sleeping. If you look at a group of people that really integrate play as a part of their day to day, be it a part of their day to day, and then you looked at a group of people that didn't integrate play and it's just not so something they're very distant from, you would notice some very stark contrasts from overall senses of well-being, overall senses of connectedness to life, um, and like overall senses of happiness between those two groups. Fact. And yes, the people that play will also have life problems, and they'll also have worries, and they'll also have anxieties, and those things will still exist. But this ability to step back and find that space inside and find that connectedness to the people around them will be a hell of a lot stronger on average than the people that don't. Um, so to exist in a life that is not, is that play is ignored, to me, I mean, yeah, notice I'm laughing. Like, it's something I'm like, what? It's like, it's because I have this belief that it feels like such a fundamental biological need. It's like, oh, so I would go, it's like the same as saying, so you go through life without drinking water. It's just the same.
It's silly. Yeah.
Yeah, and because we can't, like, when I get thirsty, it's difficult with play because when I get thirsty, I notice it. When I get hungry, I notice it. Like I have a body response, but it's not so easy to identify this like response of play, of wanting to play. Often I feel like the response that I get when I feel like my body needs to, whether it's like call it play or call it wiggling or call it running around or call it like doing free form um uh aimless activity, whatever you want to call it, like it's I often notice that my body, if I start feeling like overwhelmed, like brain foggy, like not clear, like anxious or whatever these feelings are, it's like, okay, like how much have I got off from my desk today and like gone and climbed a tree or just like lay down on the floor in the sun and just rolled around like a baby on the floor? Like, have I done that thing? No, probably not. So that's probably why I'm experiencing this thing. But it is harder to identify than like things like eating or drinking or sleep, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So if you have an unsolved problem, you recommend just go lay down, go give laying down on the floor, climb a tree, go.
Yes, yes. Like
I love
my
that.
friend, I have a friend. Her name's Alara, and she's incredible. She's working on trying to get. She works with tech entrepreneurs, and she's working on this project called Think with the Body. So tech entrepreneurs are incredible, have incredible cognitive abilities. They can think, they can generate ideas, and blah 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 blah. But often they have to make very high consequence decisions, like split seconds when they're in conferences or meetings, blah 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 blah. And sometimes they don't give themselves the chance to like make decisions from an embodied place. It's always from this like place. And when she's struggling to make herself, when she's struggling to make a business decision, she'll do things that um she'll hold the decision in her mind and she'll do something with the body until she gets an answer to whatever the decision would be. So one thing she often does is she sits with a djembe drum, like a bongo drum, and
Yeah.
she'll just hold the question in her mind and she'll just drum, and she might do it for half an hour. And then the answer comes from that emergent interaction between the embodiedness, the sound, the repetitive sound, the holding on to the question, and the relationship between those things. Often a really beautiful answer comes. So yes, if you don't know what to do, if you're feeling unsure, getting out and just be doing something that is incredibly embodied is, for me, I've been learning a lot from Alara, and it's been super, super profound in like, just general decision making.
It's incredible. That's such good advice. I definitely will try that one out.
Yeah.
I do have a drum at home, so I'm just going to play that next time I have to
Yes.
make a decision or climb a tree or do something fun, go for a swim.
Nice. Nice.
What it, this is really incredible, Charlie. I feel like the impact you have in a short period of time does, the proof speaks for itself and the way people respond speaks for itself. But how do you reckon that the things you teach in your workshops and in your classes, they actually stick with people for a long time? Or there's something that people can implement outside of the course once you teach them or get them into, do you feel like they have to like feel the sensation or experience it physically with guidance before they can start to adopt these practices for themselves?
It's a really good question. And I think often people that come on our events are usually people that have like already opened the door. So they're sort of like they've seen something online and they're like, oh my god, this is a thing. Like I've made, or a lot of people always also say to us, they're like, they've I've been doing this for years on my own, but I never thought that this was something that I could share with people, that this is something that other people were doing. So when I found your work, I was like, what the fuck? Because like seeing that there's a group of people and a community forming that do this stuff, like so many people have like found this sense of like, oh, what the hell, I can do this with other people. And
Yeah.
what we find is that there's the the correlation between how much people take away, how much people take home and carry on with that when they're home, the correlation of that um and people making friends on an event and continuing those friendships onwards are very parallel.
Mm.
Like you will there's been often, it's amazing now we're watching the different people that have met through our events and through the extended community that carries on afterwards, that like people are moving in together, there's like long-term relationships forming, and there's people are becoming really deep and meaningful parts of each other's lives, which is like amazing. And that does feel like really fundamental, like to what we're doing, is trying to do this. But because those friendships were founded upon being an event of a shared kind of topic and a shared interest that they have, these people now practice, they go to like different research things, they set up labs, they set up like their own workshops and stuff. So they really try and carry it on, which is incredible, because it sort of feels like I can, like me and my business partner Opal, we can do a certain amount ourselves, but like if I think about like extending my sense of self out into the community, the work that people have been inspired by when they've come to see what we do has then rippled out into them. It's like you can expand your sense of like how much you can do yourself if you expand that over multiple people, and it's incredible. It's incredible. Yeah, it's really, really fun.
That is incredible. That is incredible, Charlie. That's the power of your work and people like you doing these kinds of true, authentic leadership. It's like leading by example. It's part of the reason I wanted to start this podcast. Lead by example. You embody it.
Mhm.
It works for you. You've had your own experiences with your background in mixed martial arts, and then your connection to nature, especially getting you through COVID. Like, you've learned a lot, and now you're able to share that with other people. I think one of the most impactful things you do is create a space, Charlie. Like, I think it's really important to hold space for people who are looking for communities in this space, because I feel like there's a lot of people with similar interests. They just haven't found each other yet. So
Yeah.
being a facilitator for yourself, you as a facilitator, what is one of your biggest hopes and dreams for this world tour, this Europe tour you have going on this year for 2026?
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's many, but I guess the sort of the reason why we decided to do it was we've done it. So I'm based in the Lake District in the UK, and I don't know if you've ever been, but it's absolutely incredible here. It's like some of like the most famous poets and writers and philosophers lived here, and
Wow.
they talked about the place, and it's really like something out of like a fairy tale. They have like all these emerald waterfalls and like moss covered trees, and it's really incredible. But we sort of brought people here, and we really started to like people would come. But then like last year we did a selection of retreats here, and I think like 70% of the people flew from Europe. So
Wow.
we were like, what the hell? Let's like kind of like meet that, and we've done a lot of stuff in Europe, and we've done a lot of different things in the States as well. But Europe is somewhere that uh, I've especially had this like real connection to. Every time I go out there, everyone is so like I spent a lot of time in Italy and different places, and everyone is just so like they soak this stuff up and like a sponge. And there's just this sense of like in the UK, like people are a little bit more like they sort of hold this sort of guard a little bit, and it takes like 4 days for them to really let that down. And by that point, the retreat's over. Um,
Yeah.
but it's sort of you with like when we've gone to Europe, people sort of let that go within an hour, and then they're just like fully in the thing. And I love that. Like a real passion of mine is to work with people that are like, um, I mean, I feel the real work lies in people that are really disconnected from the play. But I think the one of the parts I really deeply enjoy is working with people that are very connected to play, because you can go so deep, um, which is really cool. So yeah, I think more to your question of like a real hope for this tour is to kind of like we just talked about a minute ago of like spanning your sense of self over multiple people. We've kind of done that in the UK now. We've really formed a really strong foundation and of like who we are and what we're about in the UK, and we basically want to kind of like I've been kind of thinking about Roots of Play as a big octopus, and like we want to kind of like start like elongating those limbs like out into Europe and like negotiating with different realities out there, and because there's so much
Wow.
amazing stuff happening in Europe, and I really would like to have like to gift essence de la roots of play onto these different people and different folk that are out there, and just see what people do with it.
Wow. Charlie, that's so powerful. You already are having an amazing impact. And I'm a huge believer in community and world changes happening within first, and then you can help your family, and then your neighbors and friends, and then your community, and then
Yes.
you spread from there. So that's really incredible to see that you've solidified such a strong community where you're from in the UK, and now you're spreading it to where it matters and where people are really receiving it. That's incredible, Charlie. Thank you so much for your work, and thank you so much for your time today. And it was such a pleasure to have you. Thank you for sharing.
It's been a pleasure. I've really, really enjoyed today, and I'm just really excited to see where what you're doing with the podcast also goes, and just to see how that also can affect and bridge people together and everything like that. It's a real pleasure. Thank you.
Hopefully we'll have more people like you on the show, and maybe you'll come back for a part 2 after your Europe tour.
Definitely got some cool people to recommend.
Woo! All right, thank you, Charlie. Okay.